And away we go.
Alright, so, what's in the news today?
Where do I begin?
You sound disappointed.
I sure do.
But, tell me, why are you disappointed? What has you so disappointed on this Wednesday, afternoon for me and night for you?
Well, I just gotta find the report that says it all.
Alright, cool.
Trump criticizes former allies over Epstein-related accusations.
Yeah, I can see why you're a bit disappointed. I mean, I'm pretty sure every Trump supporter is disappointed in Trump for this situation, and Trump is just digging himself a deeper hole. I don't know if this is because he truly feels this way, he's on the list, or is this just some humiliation ritual or something to the point where he has to be hated by even his
Well,
loyal
all I
fan
have
base.
to say is,
But
if Trump
regardless,
was ever,
Trump is still doing what he can to kind of write that whole Epstein files off and write the whole Epstein list off. And on top of that, Epstein's former companion, I forgot her name. Apparently, she'd be happy to cooperate with the people in regards to the Epstein list. So we already most likely know what that means. She's probably gonna go night night. But let's get right into the story on this whole Trump.
U.S. President Donald Trump is lashing out at his own supporters as he tries to clamp down on criticism over his administration's handling of much-hyped records in the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking investigation, which Trump now calls a hoax. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into this bullcrap. Hook, line, and sinker, Trump wrote Wednesday on his Truth Social site, using an expletive in his post. They haven't learned their lesson, and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success, because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter, he went on. The rhetoric marks a
I'm not.
dramatic escalation for the Republican president, who has broken with some of his most loyal backers in the past, but never with such fervor.
I'm not even surprised. All I'm gonna say is this: if the Democrats of old were to see sorry, if the Republicans, if the Republicans of old were to see the current state of the Republican Party right now, they would be crying. They would just be they would be disappointed. They'd be slamming their fists on their desk. Be like, what is this? What is this crap? This is not what I served my country for. This is not what I did this for. I'll be honest. Those Republicans of old will be so disappointed in Trump. But hey, man, Trump is bought and sold. He's probably even on that list, which is probably why he's hiding it. But I'm not gonna say he's on it. I'm saying he's probably on it. But honestly, who knows, man? I mean, at the end of the day, he's still gonna have a ton of supporters. He's still gonna have a ton of people riding for him. Yeah, but he's gonna lose some supporters as well. I mean, this is some serious stuff that he's trying to hide or that he's trying to cover up. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he lost some supporters because of that, man. Because it's like hyping this up for years. He's been hyping this up for years, and then just to tell us there's no list, just to tell us he's not going to do anything about it. Maybe it was a tactic to get it in office. Who knows? But hey, man, at the end of the day, Trump is in deep water. Is in deep deep fire, deep water, whatever the phrase is. I think it's deep water. He's on thin ice with certain people. Even some people are even throwing away their "Make America Great Again" merch because Trump isn't all about making America great again. He's all about making Israel great again. I have no problem with Israel, but it's it's just you can just tell where his allegiance lies. Does it really lie with America? What do they have on him? What dirt do they have on Trump to the point where he's backtracking? You know, What could they possibly have on him? I mean, it must be that bad. But at the end of the day, you never really know what's gonna happen. That's why I didn't support. That's why I don't support any of them. You know. Just a minute.
Well, until Eric comes back, because he has some connection issues. Fair enough, it happens to all of us. Stellantis discontinues hydrogen fuel cell program and van production. Stellantis will discontinue its hydrogen fuel cell technology program and will not launch hydrogen-powered vehicles this year, citing a lack of market development in the midterm. The decision was influenced by limited hydrogen refueling infrastructure and the need for stronger purchase incentives, according to Stellantis. Stellantis NV will withdraw from a joint hydrogen vehicle venture with Michelin and Forvia SC, jeopardizing the project's future. Forvia has confirmed it was informed about Stellantis' plan to halt hydrogen investments starting in 2026, marking a shift from Stellantis' previous ambitions in this market. Now, just because they're saying they're discontinuing with hydrogen fuel cell production does not mean that we won't see hydrogen fuel cell powered vehicles anytime soon. It will happen. It's just a momentary setback. Well, I'll finish off by saying hydrogen powered vehicles will come back. They will make a comeback in the next few years, maybe a decade. But of course, it's just a temporary setback for its progress to reach into the mainstream market. And if it doesn't get into the market, which companies or organizations will make the most profit out of it? Who knows? We just have to wait and find out. Southwestern Iceland volcano erupts, prompting evacuation of campsite and geothermal spa. The Sundhnukur volcano erupted on Wednesday, July 16, 2025, in southwestern Iceland, prompting evacuations of local towns and the Blue Lagoon Resort. The eruption followed an intense seismic swarm centered at Sundhnúk just before midnight, which caused magma to force through the Earth's crust and open a large fissure 700 to 1,000 meters long. Authorities evacuated about 100 people from Grindavík, a nearby fishing town, and swiftly cleared the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa and a local campsite, with evacuations lasting about 90 minutes and proceeding smoothly. There have been no reports of harm to people or property. The lava is flowing southeast across the uninhabited area without endangering any structures, and the Meteorological Office has described the situation as stable with ongoing magma activity. Experts highlight that this latest event marks the ninth volcanic eruption in the Reykjanes Peninsula area since late 2023, emphasizing the region's ongoing instability. The caution that such volcanic activity may continue for many years. While officials advise travelers to stay updated with official alerts due to possible travel interruptions. The volcanic eruption in Iceland. Well, first off, I'm glad that everyone's safe and there isn't much damage that has been caused, but of course, that is nature for you. It's going to happen. And we always got to be prepared when the worst is yet to come. It's very unfortunate where situations like this could happen unexpectedly and you have to evacuate just to make sure that you can get to live another day. A disruption to our day-to-day lives. However, again, nature strikes back in unexpected ways, and we always got to prepare ourselves for that. Tomorrowland stage burns to ground before festival opening. Here's what happened. On Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, a large fire devastated the central stage of the Tomorrowland Festival in Boom, Belgium, just 2 days before the event was scheduled to begin. The blaze reported started during pyrotechnics tests on the stage's right side, but officials have not yet confirmed the exact cause of the fire. More than 50 firefighters from the boom area and nearby Antwerp worked to control the blaze and stop it from spreading to adjacent vegetation and tents, while police used drones to oversee the situation. Festival spokesperson Debbie Willemsen stated that ensuring the well-being of visitors and nearby residents is their top concern, confirming that all 1,000 staff members were evacuated without any injuries reported. The fire raises uncertainty over whether the festival, expected to host 400,000 guests from 200 countries from July 18th to July 27th, can proceed as planned or if rebuilding efforts will allow a delayed opening. Wow, that's wild. And quite concerning. It takes a lot to stage a massive event like that. So, of course, there has to be some health and safety put in place to the best of their ability. If not, well, it's going to be a disaster. Not just before its opening, but the harm that could cause to people at the event. So, yeah, you got to be very careful and always prepare yourself for the worst. And always be very careful when handling anything pyro related. EU proposes rising defense funding in 2 trillion budget. The European Commission proposed a nearly 2 trillion euro multi-annual financial framework for 2028 to 2034 that increases defense funding and supports Ukraine. The proposal emerges amid pressure to address economic competitiveness, Russian aggression, and the need to reform traditional agricultural and regional spending. Key elements include a 451 billion euro competitiveness fund, a five-fold rise in defense and space spending to 131 billion euros, and a 100 billion off-budget fund for Ukraine. The head of the European Commission described the budget as more extensive, intelligent, and precise, emphasizing that it reflects the EU's goals, while the Dutch finance minister Ilko Heinen criticized the proposal as excessively large. Final approval depends on negotiations with EU member states and the European Parliament amid political divisions over funding, priorities, and revenue sources. Yep, the European Union. So big, there's so much bureaucracy and so much funding and lots of services and programs that goes into the European Union. It could be a country in its own right, but I'm not sure that's going to be popular with a lot of Europeans because although having a united Europe sounds great on paper, I'm just wondering, will this be feasibly or humanly possible? If it is possible, then the next thing to do is getting approval from the Europeans. I think there are people in Europe that would rather want to keep their national sovereignty rather than to merge into a mega European entity, even if there are so much benefits, whether it be financial, infrastructure-wise, transportation, defense. It all sounds promising with the European Union from the inside, but then comes down to the question. As good it sounds to get the support from the European Union, how much are countries in the EU relying on these funds and programs? Because if the answer is a lot, what would happen if all of that was taken away from those countries? What's next? What do they do now? That is a concern that applies anywhere. You can never be too reliant on support and services that are provided by bigger entities. Although it is beneficial, being too reliant on them could be a problem. Because if you're too reliant on something, and if that gets taken away from you, well, you're pretty much screwed. And if you don't have a plan B, or at least an alternative, in case it does get taken away from you, then again, you're in deeper hot water than you already are right now. So it is important that you think ahead and always have a backup plan. Because whatever you're getting now, it won't last forever. And that's a guarantee. I hope not, but that is certain. You never know what's going to happen. Operation Eastwood disrupts pro-Russian no-name 057 16 DDoS network. Oh, what a name. On July 15th, 2025, Operation Eastwood targeted and dismantled the infrastructure of the pro-Russian cyber activist collective no-name 05716, leading to arrests and actions against individuals linked to the group across several countries. The operation followed investigations revealing no-name 05716 have executed denial of service attacks since early 2022, initially targeting Ukrainian institutions before expanding to NATO allies and supporters of Ukraine. Law enforcement agencies from 12 countries, including Germany, France, Spain, and the United States, coordinated 24 house searches, disrupted over 100 servers, and issued 7 European arrest warrants. Authorities issued telegram notifications to over 1,000 members and nearly 20 group admins about potential criminal charges, while 2 individuals were apprehended in France and Spain, and 6 others suspected to be based in Russia were identified. Europol described the action as a significant blow to no-name 05716, though core members in Russia may rebuild, and attackers continue announcing new attacks on German companies and infrastructures. Cyber attacks are no laughing matter. It's very serious. Yeah, I know technology may not be advanced now to be a threat to us in our day-to-day lives, but there are individuals that have technological expertise to actually get into your lives or mess with whatever technology you have right now. So you always have to have some kind of security like multi-factor authentication, a password that's hard to remember or recognize or even come up with to begin with. And of course, you got to have some knowledge in technology to begin with. So if you do get attacked, at least you know enough about technology to ensure that you're secured for the next attack and provide extra layers of security, if that's possible. I think it is possible, but we just don't know because there aren't many people that are tech savvy. It has set an example of why it is important to stay secure and stay safe online, and to have some knowledge in technology to ensure that you don't fall victim to any of these attacks. I don't think Eric's going to come back anytime soon, unless he does get home, but otherwise, he may not come back. So, just preparing myself for that. Weight loss drugs may lower risk of dementia. A new study suggests that medications like Ozempic and Mounjaro may help protect against dementia and stroke. During a 7-year follow-up, users of GLP agnostic drugs had a 37% lower risk of dementia and a 19% reduced risk of stroke. Researchers noted potential neuroprotective benefits and a significantly lower risk of dementia than those on other diabetic medication. Interesting. Now that is something. That sounds very promising. It's nice to see there is advancement and progress in the healthcare industry. And of course, a way to tackle existing symptoms or any limitations to anyone's physical or mental abilities. So that is a win. It's not. This is only the beginning. It's not over yet. There's likely more to this, and it will come about very soon. Not too soon, but soon enough. Russia launches 400 drones. Missile in latest Ukraine assault. Russian forces launched a massive assault on Ukraine overnight on July 16th, 2025, involving 400 drones in an Iskander ballistic missile from Crimea. This attack followed a series of escalating drone assaults with previous records launches in May and June, while peace talks between Ukraine and Russia remained stalled. The strikes hit multiple regions including Vinnytsia, Kryvyi Rih, Kharkiv, and Odessa, damaging industrial and residential buildings, triggering large fires, power outages, and civilian casualties. Ukrainian air defenses destroyed 190 enemy drones and disrupted 145 decoy UAVs through electronic warfare, while an Iskander-M missile, along with 57 drones, targeted a dozen sites, resulting in considerable damage and casualties. The assault resulted in at least 3 civilian deaths and over 40 injuries, including minors, highlighting ongoing conflict severity and Ukraine's urgent need for strengthened air defenses. Honestly, I'm just sick and tired of hearing about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I've heard it all from both sides. I don't agree with what they're saying, and I don't agree with what they're doing. But I absolutely understand why they are doing this. They didn't have much of an option. But still, violence is never the answer. Never has been, never will be. And at this point, a lot of people in both Ukraine, Russia, and their governments, they want to stop. And of course, there will be people saying, oh, they don't want peace, they want violence. And you know what, fair enough, I can't argue with those statements either. But still, it gets to a point that people want the violence and the war to stop. Because if this keeps going, more people will be unalived, there'll be more damages to buildings, and if this keeps going, I feel like it will come to a point that if there was a point that there is an end to this war, the cost to rebuild everything will be massive. Okay, maybe this may not be an issue with Ukraine, because they're already getting lots of foreign aid anyway, in financial payments from national governments. But still, the amount of money it's going to take to rebuild the damages from both sides will be astronomical. It's just mental. I'm sick and tired of this. I want it to stop. I think a lot of people want it to stop, but it's going to keep going until a deal is reached. There might be a deal, but if it's good enough for the fighting to stop, that is the question. What to know as Greta Thunberg's Gaza flotilla reaches Israeli waters. As the humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues, the Council of Canadians has endorsed the Madeleine Declaration. Famed environmental activist Greta Thunberg was one of the passengers on the Madeleine as the boat attempted to challenge the blockade of food and medicines for Palestine. The declaration ties together the crisis of border violence and refugee deaths at sea, extra activism and fossil fuel dependence, militarism, big tech, and corporate power, the genocide in Palestine, and environmental destruction in the Mediterranean, and argues urgently for a transformative social, environmental, and political alternative. I feel this was going to happen. The first time that Greta Thunberg and all of her activist friends boarded the Madeleine tortilla to set sail towards Gaza in protest of what's going on in Gaza with the Israeli state and the IDF, a lot of people thought it was over for them. I had a feeling at that time that they weren't going to do anything to them. They're just going to send them back to where they were originally from, or at least they'll send them back to whichever country that they set off from, which we've seen with Greta Thunberg. She was seen on a plane, being sent back to France. And I'm glad that those people are safe. But of course, now sets the question, will this continue? What is the long-term plan regarding ending the violence in the Middle East. I don't think this will stop. This will keep going, no matter how many people are asking this. However, I feel like there'll be another one coming. That boat will set sail again, heading to Gaza, and I think Israeli authorities will do what they did the first time round, again and again. And when it gets boring for them, once it's getting repetitive, they will take them into custody. That's my perspective. I know people will have their say in what they believe will happen. However, I don't think, and I'm not defending the Israeli state for this whatsoever. I'm certainly against what they're doing right now. However, they're not going to be too harsh on the activists boarding on that ship if they do come back again, because that's only going to prove the points of the Palestinian protesters. That's all I have to say. There's too much controversy already. I don't think anyone wants to add more fuel to the fire as it already is. Even if they can afford to do so, I don't think certain groups of people see any point in doing so. I think they just try to keep it playing as safe as possible until eventually they just want it to end. It's not going to end. They're going to keep going, but everything comes to an end at some point. But when that point will come to an end, that is the question that not even I know the answer to. And I know way too much. Even I don't want to. I'm still dragged into it anyway. Only time will tell. And hopefully, the violence ends. End of. Astronomers capture the birth of planets around a baby sun outside our solar system. On July 16th, an international team published a study in Nature revealing the earliest moment of planet formation around the protostar HOPS 315, about 1,300 light-years away. The team employed the James Webb Space Telescope and ALMA to identify the earliest formation of solid materials, specifically heated minerals, starting to develop within the protoplanetary disk of HOPS 315. Astronomers observed that this system resembles the early solar system, with plasminals forming seas for new planets and gravitationally clearing gaps in the disk material. Melissa McClure explained that their discovery marks the first observation of the very beginning stages of planet formation in a system beyond our own solar system. And Edwin Bergen emphasized that this crucial process has never previously been detected outside the protoplanetary disk of the Sun. This discovery offers a proxy to understand the solar system's origins and highlights JWST and ALMA's combined strength for studying planet formation. Very intriguing, and so much that's yet to be discovered. I do want to see if we can make it out of the stratosphere. However, I have doubts that we would ever get to do that in our lifetime. And if we do, I don't think many of us would be alive by then. Either that, or there is no chance of escaping the stratosphere at all. Because if the last time we've ever gone out to space, and it was the moon landing in the 1960s, the only other times in recent times was to exit our stratosphere into the International Space Station. And that is it. What are the odds that we could go explore other planets anytime soon? I do want to see that. I genuinely have doubts that we would ever get to leave our planet to visit other solar systems in the future. Either way, hopefully, there is something coming about. So we must press on with our concerns. That's not even my name. Anime horse girls and $1 billion phenomenon. Umasume, pretty Derby, developed by Cygames, has generated over $2 billion in Japan since its 2021 launch, with more than 30 million downloads across Asia. The game recently debuted globally and, at its American launch, reached the #1 spot in free simulation and #2 in grossing simulation on US mobile charts. Critics and gamers consider the concept of Uma Musume Pretty Derby weird even by anime standards. The game features real Japanese racehorses reimagined as girls with horse ears and tails who attend an academy in races and perform idol-style concerts. Every character is based on an actual racehorse, including their personalities and histories. The idea of personifying non-human entities as anime girls is not new in Japan. Kantai Collection portrayed World War II battleships as characters and became popular after its 2013 release. Uma Musume Pretty Derby applies a similar approach to racehorses, with an anime adaptation preceding the game. Bugger. Okay. I mean, it's Japan. I can't. It's expected that Japan would do something like this. But yeah, I don't get it either. What's up with that? There has to be some kind of level here. I think if people don't know what Japan is all about, and this is the first thing they see coming out of Japan, they'd be like, "What the heck? What is this? Why do they do this?" They'll be very concerned and very confused for sure. 988 Lifeline to drop specialized services for LGBTQ youth this week. Specialized suicide prevention services for groups at high risk, such as LGBTQ youth, will end on July 17th. SAMHSA's June 2025 statement indicated the Lifeline will no longer silo LGBT plus youth services and will instead focus on serving all help seekers. Researchers and advocates expressed concerns about removing targeted care for LGBTQ youth. Experts also suggest the government is moving away from providing essential, tailored services. The federal government serves as a major funding source and sets minimum standards of care for mental health services, with states expanding upon them. Federal responsibilities include regulating systems and providers, protecting consumer rights, funding services, and supporting research and innovation. So, yeah, that's an interesting point. On one hand, mental health is very important, regardless of what someone's religion is, what their ethnicity are, or even someone's sexuality. It does not matter what identity of the person that would be. Mental health in general is very important. I think all I have to say is, even if specialized care is to be discontinued, I do believe there has to be an alternative that could substitute for the loss from the discontinuation of said specialized care. Like, if you're going to remove something or end its services, you can't just leave it at that. There has to be an alternative. There has to be a backup plan, a plan B, perhaps. So, yeah, it's very serious, mental health. And if something is going to be removed or discontinued, there has to be an alternative. You can't just say that, oh, we're just going to make it all generalized and whatnot. Just saying that specialized care will now be opened to just general support, that is not going to be enough. I think there has to be different ways to branch out specific specialized care. How that will go is an interesting question. A very good question. But of course, even if there isn't an answer now, at some point there will have to be an answer to how this could be tackled or addressed. Netherlands rations electricity to ease power grid stresses. The Netherlands is the first European Union nation to ration electricity as its power grid is overwhelmed by demand. Tuesday's crisis emerged after green-leaning governments discouraged fossil fuels and closed Europe's largest natural gas field in the Dutch province of Groningen, while almost ending energy imports from Russia. Nederland, the Association of Dutch Grid Operators, said more than 11,900 businesses and numerous public buildings, such as hospitals and fire stations, are on a waiting list for electricity connections. In some cases, authorities said they must continue waiting until the mid-2030s. The shortages come despite the Netherlands boasting over 3,550 wind turbines on land and hundreds more in the Ijsselmeer Lake and the North Sea and at the North Sea, upsetting residents in coastal towns of this seafaring nation. Additionally, the country's over 60 million solar panels, more than 3.5 panels for each person in the Netherlands, have done little to improve the situation. Despite warnings by critical experts, the country's leaders wanted to turn the Netherlands into the world's leading nation for renewable energy while shifting away from the more reliable sources, especially natural gas. Yet the seller's drive led to one of Europe's highest utility prices for consumers as reliable energy became increasingly scarce in what was, till recently, one of the world's most developed countries. And with more electric cars and e-bikes on the road after government-backed climate change policies, the grid proved incompa- incompatible with rapid electrification increases. Dutch officials are now responding to the issue by asking consumers to charge their electric bikes and cars outside peak times. They also suggest limiting showers and the use of household equipment, such as washing machines and vacuum cleaners. In my opinion, it's asking a lot here. To say that you should not charge during the day, reduce how often you use your electrical appliances, electricity usage. It's giving. I don't know what vibes it's giving, or how do I describe it. I think I think there was a story at one point, or there was some group of people saying that you will own nothing, you will be happy, you will eat the bugs, there'll be limitations on where you could go, how much you spend, and how much you're using electricity. This is what I'm getting from this, mostly. There could be more that may not be as bad, but otherwise, this is very concerning. Now, of course, the Netherlands is a small nation, and there's a high population density in the Netherlands, and there's so much that the country could do, and its government is very complicated, as there is so much that that country could take in and do. Desperate times call for desperate measures. There has to be more that the Netherlands can do to ensure that they don't have to resort to asking people to don't use your electric appliances, don't charge your cars or e-bikes, and don't eat red meat or consume as little meat as possible, or tell people to eat as little food as possible. It's very concerning in these trying times. It may come to a point that people in the Netherlands may actually move out. As good as their urban infrastructure is and the cycling routes, a lot of things about the Netherlands sounds promising from the outside, but from within, it's very complicated. There's so many complex issues that it only applies to the Netherlands. You don't see this in France or Spain, maybe in Germany, But you certainly don't see this in the UK as well. There are so many issues in the Netherlands that only applies to them. You don't see these issues anywhere else in the world, or even Europe. But yeah, there's so much to do, but it won't be enough. But one can hope that there is dedication to actually tackling these issues head on, and at least get rid of at least some of the issues that currently loom in the nation right now. I'm not even asking for a lot. Any progress will do. At least that's something. Co-op CEO Shireen Hack confirmed that all 6.5 million members had their personal data stolen in a cyber attack in April. Hack said she would not resign, but she was incredibly sorry for the attack and its impact on colleagues. 4 suspects were arrested in relation to cyber attacks on Co-op and Marks and Spencer in spring 2023. Like I said, cyber attacks, they're no laughing matter. You never know what those people will do with that information. So it's important for people to have very good cyber security, because if not, you're going to get stories like this, and there's a risk to people's privacy and their way of living. Okay, maybe not their way of living for now, but at least their data and their privacy would likely be at risk if anyone was to share that information in exchange for millions, perhaps, in money. It is scary. Very scary. Scary like dairy. I don't know why dairy would be scary, but there you go. Obama's playfully Denny divorce rumors on Michelle Obama's podcast. Speculation about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama's marriage has increased in recent months. Michelle Obama stated, "There hasn't been one moment in our marriage where I have thought about quitting on my man." She added that if there were problems, everybody would know about it. Michelle Obama expressed surprise at how much she laughs in her marriage. You know, she has a good point. If the Obamas, if the Obama family, if there was a problem regarding the Obamas, I think everyone would already know by now. But yeah, we're still questioning if Michelle and Barack were to separate, but no, they're still together and happily married, so, well, there you go. It's just so stupid. Anyone would believe anything and say, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna happen." Like, no, it's not gonna happen. And if it was gonna happen, you would know by now. So, what are you on about? It's just ridiculous. Good grief. Anyway, away and above and beyond and yada yada yada. And yeah, whatever floats your boat, I guess. DEA and FBI seized $10 million in Sinaloa cartel crypto as drug seizures surge. During coordinated raids in Miami, DEA and FBI officials confiscated over $10 million worth of cryptocurrency connected to the Sinaloa cartel as part of a larger nationwide operation targeting drug trafficking. These raids followed ongoing operations targeting the cartel's extensive trafficking and laundering network active since January across multiple US states. The operations unfolded coast to coast, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida, and involved seizures of millions of fentanyl pills and thousands of pounds of methamphetamine hidden in produce shipments. DEA Acting Administrator Robert Murphy highlighted the agency's focused efforts to weaken the cartels through continuous arrests, asset seizures, and sustained enforcement pressure. These seizures aim to disrupt the Sinaloa cartel's drug distribution and money laundering operations nationwide and represent a significant blow to the cartel's financial networks. Scary times indeed, but not as scary as you think. Well, that's if you're a part of that story to begin with. And people ask, why are people so scared and concerned about crypto? Yeah, because it's connected to criminals. Criminals use crypto because it's very easy to hide in private wallets. Now, there may be, of course, there is the blockchain where there are public records, but there are some aspects, not everywhere, but some, where you could just hide it from the public. And governments are wondering, how do we tackle crypto in the next coming years? And whatever they're doing, although I can't argue with their intention, everyone is outraged by the amount of surveillance that they will do within their own borders. So it is complicated, very complicated indeed, about what's going to happen with crypto. But of course, the cartel, yeah, not surprised. It's the cartel. What do you expect? Of course, they're going to tackle with drugs at some point in their lives, or at least at some point in their day-to-day in the week. They have control in parts of Mexico, like many cartels. When will the cartel crash down? Only time will tell. And if they do come down, it's going to take some miracle for that to happen. Quite the miracle indeed. And that is the episode.